Everyone has moments in life they can't just stop thinking about. They can be embarrassing things, like that one time you face planted in front of a group of teenagers, or something amazing like the first time you hosted your family for the holidays. And on Baby, This is Keke Palmer, hosted by me, Keke Palmer, and presented by BMW, we know to savor the good memories and let go of the bad. And one thing everyone remembers fondly is their first time behind the wheel of a BMW. So come join me and BMW this summer as we explore pop culture moments and topics you just can't stop thinking about on Baby, This is Keke Palmer, sponsored by BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th.
We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Why were there 6 sounds right when I hit start recording?
I know. And I'm just like...
Train, some weird-ass knocking on my wall.
Meanwhile, I have, like, someone mowing, like, directly out my window, and it's...
I can't hear it.
Thank God. I mean, it might when we, like, levelate it, but, like, it's so annoying.
Fine.
Welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly minisode where we dig into things that we've been watching and or playing recently. I'm Terry.
Yee. I'm Mary Beth. This week we're talking a new Screen Life film, a creepy new book, a satanic true crime docuseries, the game with the giant VILF, and the melty goodness of our next aughts remake.
Wow, 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 wow. I don't know why this is just gonna... It's just gonna be our aughts thing. I don't know.
I like it. Okay, before we talk about things we've been really enjoying, I just want to tell you, Terry, that I started watching Servant this weekend with my mom, and it's really fucking good.
Oh, isn't it so good?
It's so weird, and it's so good. Like, my mom, who is, not a big horror person, and she's a little bit picky, she couldn't stop watching it. Like, the first episode, she was like, I don't know, this is really weird. I'm like, I'm watching it. She's like, all right, let's watch it. And we watched 3 episodes in one day, and she was like, wow, this is really interesting. I'm like, see? So I'm on the train. Now that I'm home, I have to fucking pay for Apple TV because she has it, and now I'm gonna get it, and they got me. But they've actually got some really good shows.
They really do.
So I'm willing to pay for it because I want to watch Ted Lasso too. But I just wanted to let you know that I'm finally starting Servant. I knew you would appreciate it. I know
so
that
excited.
Joe will also appreciate it. So, guys, Servant's fucking cool. So you should watch it.
And I'll tell you, it only gets better. It only gets better.
It's fucking weird. I can't stop watching.
It is. It is such a weird show, but it's so fucking watchable.
So weird. Anyway, I knew that you'd be very excited about this.
I'm so excited.
So what is this satanic true crime docuseries? It sounds exciting. Okay, but that sigh is the opposite of exciting.
Well, okay, I've only watched the first episode. It's called Fall River. And it's coming to Epix. It starts on Sunday on Epix from Blumhouse. And I'm not 100% sure what I think about this show yet.
Wait,
like I
Blumhouse did docuseries?
Yeah, they're doing this
cool.
This docuseries with Epix. I don't know how I feel about it yet. It's kind of icky. Well, it's about a very icky subject matter, but it's also it feels a little sensationalist in some ways.
Oh, is it one of those like kind of exploitative true crime things?
I'm afraid it's going to be one of those. So it takes place in 1979 in Fall River, Massachusetts, which is where 100 years prior the Lizzie Borden murders happened. Has absolutely nothing to do, at least so far, with the story, but it is a point that they bring up in this docuseries. And 3 young women were murdered in 1979, and it opens up on a kind of dramatic reenactment of the cops finding one of the women's bodies. And I'm not going to say what happened to the woman because it is absolutely gross and disgusting, but she was murdered viciously. And then it kind of launches into this idea around satanic panic of that era. And they're saying that it's a ritualistic murder, that there's cults involved, that it's Satanism. The guy, immediately.
Holy shit.
We're going to leave this in because I have been trying to capture on my phone because I feel like people don't necessarily understand the kind of shit that I have to deal with. And that is as loud. That is what I have to deal with.
That's one of the loudest ones I've ever heard, too.
Typically, when I hear it, I mute that. But I was in the middle of conversating. Conversating. Okay, so they established right away that this guy that was a pimp, they were all, at least I believe they were all sex workers. He was, they established this man as their pimp and also as a Satanist. And he is currently, or at least I don't know. I haven't looked into what is happening now, but this first episode, he is in jail for the crimes. And it sets up all of this talk about establishing connections between the victims and him. And then it ends with kind of trying to pull the rug out from under you. But the music in it is very bombastic. I don't like that I never like it when shows use reenactments because you never can tell if the rest of the footage that they use in it is real or if it's still a reenactment. It kind of gives it a kind of cinematic vibe that I don't really vibe with for what it's telling. So I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it, but it could also be trying to sensationalize this because satanic crimes were sensationalized at that time. So I don't know if it's leaning into that and it's going to change. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure how I feel about it. I'm reviewing it with Joe Lipsit.
Okay.
And we'll see how it goes. But there's 4 episodes. First one premieres Sunday on Epix. So if you still have Epix after you signed up for St. Maud, if you signed up for it earlier, you can, I guess, maybe watch this. But I don't know if I recommend it quite yet.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I know what this Screen Life film is, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. So what did you watch?
Okay, so I watched the new Screen Life film called Profile. It is directed by Timur Bekmambetov. He is a director. He's a Russian director. He's done films like Night Watch and Day Watch, but also he is a huge part of the Screen Life, subgenre of found footage, which is films like Unfriended, Searching. He produced basically almost all of the most recent Screen Life films. So he's had a lot to do with its growth. And now this is his first time directing a Screen Life film called Profile, which was originally shown at the Berlin International Film Festival in 2018, and now it's finally getting distribution. And it is about a young journalist named Amy Whitaker who kind of desperately in trying to grab a story for a big publication, she decides to kind of go undercover to meet a ISIS recruiter and learn about how exactly that they lure women, young women, to come to Syria to be a part of ISIS. And, I was fully expecting a very exploitative movie that is very much Middle Easterners are bad, terrorism, Muslims are terrorists, blah, blah, blah. And actually, it's rather careful with the subject matter. There are some parts where I think so. I think there are definitely parts where it falls into that whole ISIS is look how bad ISIS is, and showing these like really they don't show the full videos, but they definitely, show Facebook videos of members of ISIS torturing people. But I think what this film does well is kind of portrays the nuance of these situations and doesn't necessarily excuse the actions of Belial is the recruiter that she meets on Facebook. And he's played really amazingly by Shahzad Latif. He brings an empathy to the character where you can like kind of empathize with him, but it doesn't ever forgive him for what he's doing. I think it shines a light more on like, these are people with motivations. They're not necessarily good motivations, but they are human beings. And I think it tries really hard to strike that balance. I think it's not always successful because it is such like exploitative subject matter, but I was really surprised with that. And it's one of the first screen life horror in scare quote films that is really rooted in like a current events issue and really tries to shed light on the use of the internet within these current events. But also not even just about current events, but also all about online performances and identities and the ways that we kind of curate our own personas and create these personas online, both as Amy is creating this fake person who is a young convert to Islam, and how, Belial is trying to manipulate her to come to Syria to join ISIS. But it also just has a lot to, talking about these weird digital relationships we form and what they look like and how boundaries get blurred. And I think it's just a really fascinating look at that in general, and an examination of, the creation of online personas, which I feel like we can I could kind of identify with that, because obviously, like, by no means am I well known, but like with Twitter and the podcast and being a writer, like, it's kind of interesting to think about, like, the persona you cultivate online versus who you really are. And I try really hard to be authentic, but it's still a personality. Like, I don't share everything.
Right. So, absolutely.
Exactly. So it's really interesting just to see that kind of played out in the film all through like her computer screen. So I really enjoyed it, actually. I think it is, a lot of people are calling it the best screen life film that's ever, so far. I still love Unfriended. I think Unfriended is amazing, but they're such different films. Like, Unfriended is a horror movie, and this is more like grounded in current events, so it's hard to compare them.
Is it suspenseful?
Yes.
Okay.
They have jump scares in it that are really interesting, like, and how they use notifications to give you jump scares and like kind of provide twists. I think there's a lot of tension, and it's surprising how much tension that it creates through like her really quick clicking around on the screen, or like how these notifications pop up when you don't expect them to. I don't know. It's actually very, skillful in that building tension, because it's hard with those kinds of films. So yeah, I recommend it. I think it's really a fascinating new addition to screen life films. And yeah,
I was curious about it, but I didn't want to request it because I was afraid that I was going to have to like write negatively about, its stereotypes, or if there were stereotypes. So I'm glad to hear that it kind of handles that subject matter a little bit more tenderly than I was kind of afraid that it was going to. So that's good.
Yeah, I was also really worried about that. So again, by no means perfect, but way better than I could have expected. So yeah.
Good.
And then before we talk about the video game that we've been both playing, I just want to give a shout out to this book called The Lost Village that Daxi Baban posted about on Twitter. This is by Camilla Sten. It's Swedish, and it's described as the Blair Witch Project meets Midsommar, and it definitely is so far. I have not finished it, but it's riveting. It's definitely one of those books that I wasn't able to stop reading I wasn't able to put down. It is about a documentary crew who goes to a village that was lost, that, one day everyone disappeared except for one body they found and a baby who was alive. And it is fascinating. It is like reading a found footage movie, kind of. It's really interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah, I saw Dax tweet about it, and I added it to my Amazon list as well. I haven't ordered it yet because I'm currently reading a Stephen King book for a podcast. So like I'm trying to like focus on that, but he got me too to be interested in it.
It's really good. I recommend it too. I've been doing more reading recently, which has been great because I've kind of been on a slump with that.
Yeah, I'm hoping because I'm back at the office and everything is locked down. I've been reading the Stephen King book at lunchtime, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is how I can actually get back into reading, because it's been so long since I've like actually sat down and read. And so I have a couple books lined up, and this is one of them that I think I'm going to start digging into at lunchtime. So I'm excited to hear that it's good.
Yeah, it's definitely a page turner. I'm reading it on my Kindle, so page turner in scare quotes, but
right.
Okay.
All right.
This is the big thing that I am excited to talk about with you.
Yeah. I am afraid I have somewhat of a hot take in this game, and that I think the first 5 hours are really good, and then I think it kind of nosedives and goes back to the issues that plagued 5 and 6 of the series.
Did we say we're talking about Resident Evil Village?
Oh, shit.
We are talking about Resident Evil Village, everybody.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Oh, jeez.
So just to start off, Terry has finished the game. I have not. I am in the middle of the third Lord of the Village. So I'm about 5.5 hours in.
Yeah.
But so I can't say I agree with you yet, but I see where you're coming from.
I mean, okay. I think the first place, the castle with the vampire lady that we all want to fuck. I think is really good. I don't feel that it's as good as the kind of houses that they've established in the past with particularly Resident Evil 7, but I think it's really good and meaty. I really had a lot of fun with that. I think the next zone with Beneviento Manor is probably the most terrifying thing Resident Evil has ever done, because Mary Beth, I literally screamed so loud. I can't.
I screamed too. A couple times. I was sweaty. Like I was sweaty and like gripping the controller. I'm playing with Steve. Like we're switching controller back and forth because we both really want to play, and it's it's easy that way. And I played almost the entire manor and sweaty, tense. Like
it's sort of like the creators of Resident Evil looked at Outlast and looked at PT and they're like, here, hold my beer, and kind of laid out how you could do a perfectly executed, maybe an hour, I think is how long it takes to get through that, or at least that's how long it took me to get through.
I'm so sad about it.
Well, that's maybe that's my complaint, though.
Yeah, and like Steve and I looked at each other like when it was done, like the boss fight, and I was like, "Are you serious? That was it? That was the boss fight?" Like after the boss fight with Lady Dimitrescu, which was like pretty epic in scale. I thought like it's big, it's kind of intense. It wasn't necessarily difficult, but like it's like a big crazy fight in a castle. This one was disappointing. It felt so anticlimactic.
And that's kind of my complaint as we're going forward. Okay. And so I'll be curious to hear when you guys finish it, your thoughts on the last half of it. And obviously I'm not going to spoil anything. I feel that the amount of time we spend in the first two areas, like the village area and the castle, is meaty. And then it just feels like you've been exploring as a theme park, and then you just get on one of the automated rides, and then it just goes, and you like, oh, yep, there's that. Oh, yep, there's that. Oh, we're done. And that's kind of how the rest of the game felt for me. And again, no spoilers, but the final boss was the most disappointing experience
Oh no. Okay. Well,
I've
we'll
had
see.
in a Resident Evil game. So I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are. Yeah.
Well, yeah, because like Castle Dimitrescu, the level design in this, I mean, like, despite the inconsistency with length, like, the castle is gorgeously designed. Like, this game is beautiful to look at.
Oh, it's stunning.
It's stunning, but the level design I think is really cool. Which is why I was disappointed with the Beneviento Manor, because I feel like there were so many other things they could have done with it. I mean, I'm not a game designer, so who the fuck knows? But it was just the way the house was laid out was so cool, and I wanted more time in it.
Yeah, same. And that's how I felt about Moreau, honestly.
Okay, so we'll see how far I get into that, but we're fighting a big fish, or we just got this big fish boy. But yeah, and I'm really into, like, I know I've heard some people say they don't necessarily like the creatures, or they're more into like the Southern Gothicness of 7. I really like this kind of Gothic, like Victorian Gothic-y creature feature of the like influence of this one. I'm really digging that, and like the different creature designs. I'm really loving that so far. So overall, I'm really digging the game. I love the vibe. I think it's really pretty. I'm very compelled by the story. Like, I really want to know what's going on. So overall, I'm really vibing with it so far. So we'll see what happens when we finish it, but I am having a great time with it.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll be curious to hear what your thoughts in the last half, because you're about the part where like the seam started to show for me. So I'll be curious.
Okay.
We'll have to talk about it again.
Cool. God, Beneviento Manor.
Oh. I'll tell you, I was playing it, of course, on the PlayStation 5, and they use 3D audio if you wear a headphone. And so I played the entire game with headphones on, but I'll tell you that part, there's this moment, like, again, we're not going to spoil anything, but you're walking around and it's dark at one point, and your flashlight is barely illuminating things, and it illuminates something that I was like, what am I looking at? What is this thing? What? And then it just rushes you and starts cackling, and
oh my god, that's got PT vibes. That's got, if I think it's the part where you're talking about with the dark hallway, it's got major PT vibes. All I'll say, but I was very happy about that, and also terrified. But
it was so good. It was so good.
So good. I mean, I just want a whole game based on that.
Yeah,
PT,
seriously.
Basically. Like, I just want to play PT. I just want to play Silent Hills.
Rip.
But I think it's worth playing.
Yeah, it's not a bad game. Even though I'm like not sold on the last half, it's not a bad game. You're going to get enjoyment out of it. It's
definitely easier than any other Resident Evil game.
Oh my gosh, I have had so much ammo until the very last level.
Right? So, okay, I will fully admit that we're playing casual because I wanted to focus on the story, and like I am like that kind of person, and I was like, I want to focus on the story. I don't want it to be super challenging. So I was like, we'll just do casual. But Jesus Christ, like, we died only a couple times, and we've had no problem with ammo. So,
yeah.
But then I've heard it's the thing with like with the other difficulties too. Like, it's not just casual.
Standard wasn't that difficult. Like, I was contemplating picking casual, but the only reason I didn't was that in the demo I'd switched to casual, and I didn't like that the aim assist was literally bringing it to their head. So like,
yeah, it's very nice, but also just like it feels a little bit like I'm cheating.
And so I was like, well, okay, I'm gonna try it on. I'll try it on standard, because I believe you could turn down the difficulty at any time, and I literally had no problem. I had ammo the entire time. I died maybe a handful of times. Yeah, it's not that difficult. But
no, and the inventory management isn't also like as pain in the ass as it has
really
been in the
isn't.
past.
It wasn't
It's
until
not.
like I think 3/4 of the game that I was like, oh, I don't have room in my inventory. I got to move things around.
Yeah, we had like a brief moment of that, but then like we kept just buying more space.
Yeah.
Oh, the Duke! Shout out to the Duke. I love the Duke.
I do too.
I love the shopkeep. He's great.
He's great.
But yeah, Resident Evil 8. I'm loving it so far.
Awesome.
Again, I haven't played a video game. I haven't really played like an actual video game besides, Stardew Valley in a while. So it's been nice to kind of stretch those muscles again.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So back to the Aughts remakes. What did we watch this week, Mary Beth?
We watched the 2005 remake of House of Wax, directed by Kwame Colette Serra, who did Orphan.
And The Shallows.
Oh, that's right, to do The Shallows. But yeah, we watched House of Wax.
I've seen this before. So I'm curious, what were your thoughts watching this, 16 years after it came out?
Okay. It needed to be shorter.
Oh, really?
I thought it needed to be shorter. I thought the beginning was kind of boring. I think they took too much time to establish the characters in the town. It wasn't terrible, but I was like, this could be a little bit tighter. But once they got into the House of Wax, that shit's mean.
Right?
They just jump right into killing these characters in really nasty ways too. But Jared Paladecki's character is immediately as soon as the shit starts popping off, he's ganked. But then he's you see them make him into a wax figure, and then his friend finds him and peels off his cheek, and I'm
and keeps peeling it off, trying to make it better.
Oh, keeps peeling it off, and then it just exposes his teeth, and it is just nasty pants. It's mean. It's mean.
And then our final girl gets her finger snipped off.
She immediately gets captured, gets her finger snipped off, gets her lips glued shut, and has to rip them open, which is fucking nasty. I dug it. I don't think I liked it as much as I thought I was going to. I think it was a little long, like I said, but the most early 2000s cast: Alicia Cuthbert as Carly Jones, the final girl; Paris Hilton as her friend; Chad Michael Murray as the final girl's twin, bad boy twin; Jared Padalecki as the final girl's kind of douchebag boyfriend.
John Abrahams, who was in Scary Movie as Dalton.
Right? The music is just
early
2000s, amazing.
The cut to Minerva by Deftones. I was like, yeah, this is the music I love. And I love that it was just throwing out alt-rock hit after alt-rock hit.
Oh my God. It's so
ends with
good.
My Chemical Romance. Give me this shit.
I had fun with it. It's mean as hell. I didn't realize how mean it was. I kind of love the part where Paris is running around trying to escape, and he's jabbing through the grates. I think there are some really interesting, some cool kills, and the fact that all of the people aren't just killed, but turned into wax figures, and the whole town is populated with wax figures. And then when some of them die, the end, everything's melting, which was so fucking cool.
Oh
and
my
the
God.
ending with the melting house was so fucking rad. They're dying inside of these gross wax prisons, which is so fucked up.
It really is.
Oh my God.
It's so fucked up. From the moment that Wade gets his Achilles tendon snapped to the way that, I have a lot of like thoughts about how they kind of abused Paris Hilton in this movie. And
yes. Oh, yes.
That kind of really kind of bothered me watching it back now as 16 years removed from it. Because I remember the time when it was basically the advertisement was based around come see Paris Hilton get killed. They were leaning into this, and I didn't really think about it at the time, but looking back on it now, I'm the advertising around this was really gross. The way that they kind of leaned into the filming aspect of her sexual conquest with her boyfriend, it felt really mean-spirited to her, not necessarily to her character, but to her in particular.
Yeah. Well, and she's the only other female character. She's got long blonde hair. She is shown multiple times giving her boyfriend roadhead and making out with him.
And she's going for her lipstick.
Yeah. Oh God. But I know what you mean. I was pleasantly surprised. I thought she was actually pretty good. I've never really seen her act, and I was but she's a decent actor. I did not like the whole watch Paris die thing. It just kind of plays into that whole misogyny of the early 2000s where she's a rich girl, and there's some weird capitalistic things we could talk about with her as a trust fund kid. But the violence that everyone was like kind of encouraging towards her is fucked up. And like the sensationalizing of her and like using her as a marketing tool and being like, look at Paris, like all sexy, and then watch her get murdered. Like, ew.
Yeah, it's a little gross.
Ew.
It's really kind of uncomfortable to watch. The other thing is like, oh my God, Chad Michael Murray. He's so attractive to me, and the kind of like douchey on the surface, but like heart of gold underneath is like something that young gay Terry in 2005 was like, I would do anything for him. I would do
anything for Chad. That's and all I have to say.
Also, I do think that Dalton and him have definitely fooled around at some point in the movie, like before the movie started. There's like sexual tension between the two of them. I'm just saying.
I was gonna mention how like this is a quintessential early 2000s, like talking about two dudes having sex with each other as like an insult.
Yeah, but like, they totally got high and fooled around at some point. I know that they have. That's in my head canon. The way he looks at his poor friend at the very end and it breaks his neck off is like it had like puppy dog eyes looking at him. That is not something that just friends have. I'm sorry, there was something more there. But I think there was also something more, unfortunately, between him and his sister. Like their chemistry. Shut up. Their chemistry was a little kind of gross.
But I also love that there's a final girl and a final boy.
Yeah.
Like I was so into that because I'm like have become more like interested in the concept of the final boy contrasted to the final girl. And so I think it's so cool. Yeah, this was really rad. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Another one of those like early 2000s, like those aught slasher remakes that people don't give enough credit. I mean, like, it's kind of cheesy, but it's fucking cruel. I like, once it gets going, man, it's good as hell.
And I mean, you can't beat that melting house. I mean, like...
Oh my God, Terry, the melting house was everything. Oh my God, it was so fucking cool. Like, you've never seen that shit before, unless you've seen the original, which I haven't, so if I'm wrong...
No, I don't... I'm not 100% sure that happened in that either. I've actually never. That's one of. I was talking with Joe earlier this week. That's actually one of the originals that I've never seen. I've never seen that original House of Wax. But I mean, a lot of people say that this movie is more of a remake of Tourist Trap than it is House of Wax.
Okay.
Like I feel like. And I mean, I can kind of see it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's decent. I think it's okay.
But yeah, if anything, watch House of Wax for the fucking like climactic moment of the melting house and like, oh my God, it was so cool. I was like, holy shit, this house. Also, when you think about the logistics of making a literal house out of wax,
right? Well, and I was trying to think, I was like, where was this set, and at what point does it melt in the summer? Like these are the thoughts going through my head.
Thank you. I was also thinking that. I'm like, how does the electricity work? How does it not melt in the summer? Like, yeah, obviously the fire is going to melt it, but like if it's high, and obviously they said it was wintertime and they were all in tank tops and shit, so like it was not cold. Yeah. How's the insulation? So many questions about like things that don't matter, but I'm just like, how in the hell is this a functional home?
Right.
And the bed's made out of wax. I don't mean, maybe they don't stay there. Maybe it's more like a tourist attraction, but still. Anyway, so 2 for 2.
Yeah.
Not bad.
So speaking of 2 for 2, we might not be 3 for 3 next week, but what are we watching for next our next aughts exploration? I am
completing the trifecta by completing the Black Christmas trifecta. We are watching 2006's Black Xmas. I have heard nothing but bad things about this movie, but Michelle Trachtenberg is in it, and so is Mary Elizabeth Winstead. So, you know, I'm pretty pumped on it.
I haven't seen this movie since I saw it with my brother on Christmas Day in the movie theater.
My God, amazing.
Yeah, so I'll be curious to revisit it because yeah, I've also heard nothing but bad things. But you know, sometimes you get to revisit things, and all of a sudden, you know, we like to reevaluate the old
Well, that's what I
stuff.
feel like watching. Like, I'm watching these now instead of having seen them before, and having that distance probably is. I don't know if it's helpful or not, but like I'm appreciating them. Like I can see that. Obviously, can see the issues and like very much early 2000s stuff, but I'm enjoying them.
Yeah.
Like, I think there was a lot of really cool ideas. I think they were really mean. These movies are mean in a way that we talked about this with The Hills Have Eyes, in a way that modern horror is not anymore. It's not as gory and fucked up. And I like those risks. Those risks are really cool. And, you know, maybe they didn't pay off in the moment, but you can't deny the creativity of those movies. Like, yes, they're remakes, but like, holy shit. Like these directors were really like doing the most. And I appreciate that 100%.
Yeah. And from what I remember, Black Xmas is also very mean spirited. So,
those are two of the loudest
to
instances.
my existence.
Oh my God. Does that happen at night when you're trying to sleep?
Yeah.
Cool. Everyone in your neighborhood sucks shit.
Yes.
Like, who does that? Oh, Terry, I'm so sorry.
Welcome to rural America.
Wait, Polo Hills Have Eyes and just like put barbed wire or like.
Oh my God. You know.
That's fucked up. I'm sorry. That's fucked up.
No, the thought has crossed my mind because like you don't understand how obnoxious it is. Constant. This is a constant thing.
Put one of those annoying signs in your front yard that say "Drive like your children live here."
Oh, a house 2 houses down has that.
Okay, my grandparents said that because they live on a similar road where like somehow people race down it. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why? What is the benefit? Yeah. Anyway, people are rude.
Yeah, very rude.
Pivoting to a happier note, Terry, who are we talking to on Monday?
Well, this is both a happy and a sad note. It's a happy because we are talking to writer and podcaster Brian Christopher, who we love, and he brought with us, or what brought with him, The Neverending Story, which is...
We finally watched it, because I know that that's a big one. Jesus Christ.
Y'all, this conversation, we major sad girl vibes. Like this,
sad girl vibes for sure.
This is, you know, we had a couple really funny episodes, and this one is definitely a little bit more on the sobering, sad type. But it's a great episode regardless.
It's a great discussion. It's just like... We also sing that the Never-Ending Story song quite a few times.
Oh, it's true.
It's the never-ending story.
Da, 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 da. Yeah.
Tell me what you see. Anyway. Oh, my God. Anyway, so listeners, you've heard from us, but we want to hear from you.
I like how we just get super serious.
I know. So you've heard from us. Did you watch a film we talked about this week? Did you read a book that we talked about? Did you play a video game that we talked about? And have some thoughts? Do you have suggestions for our next aughts film? Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com or reach out to us directly on Twitter. I'm at MBMcGanders.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please, 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 please go rate and subscribe and review. And I said that all out of order and it confused me, but we got there.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Won't somebody please think of the children? Won't somebody please think of the children? Somebody please think of the children!
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room?
It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.